So when we talk about economics as a science and a social science, what do we mean by that? And how is it different than some of the other physical sciences that people are more familiar with?
Sure. So before I answer the question, since you brought up meteorology, I'm going to have to invoke something from my past. So once upon a time, I did work and teach in the Department of Economics and Geosciences at the Air Force Academy. And so we had, of course, the economics major, we had a geoscience major, and we also had a shared major with the physics department, which was a meteorology major. And so there was this running joke between the economists and the meteorologists about which made the better predictions. And so as you pointed out so rightly, economists and meteorologists both get grief for having predictions that are off. So when it comes to, the whole topic of economics, I like to say that when I used to teach my students, economics is simply the study of human action under conditions of scarcity. And so when you think about human action, right off the bat, that raises some questions and some comparisons to other fields. So for example, human action as such, economists just take a look and observe what are human beings actually doing, right? And then we assess, on the basis of scarcity, certain trade-offs that are involved with that kind of action. But what we typically don't do is ask what are the underlying motivations behind those actions, which would be reserved to the field of psychology. Nor would we ask really typically whether or not those are good or bad actions in terms of a moral sense. That would be left to the field of ethics. Okay, so when we talk about economics as, say, a science and how it might be distinguished from other types of sciences, there's going to be a little bit of a split among economists here. Now, I approach economics objectively as a deductive science. You start off with certain axioms. This is what Austrian economists would typically say. There's certain objective things, axioms you begin with, and then there are certain things you can deduce from the axiom that human beings act. Okay, then there's going to be other economists who emphasize more what I'll call the realm of economic history, where they'll say, yes, okay, there's some deductive things that we can derive from science, the science of human action, but then there's also an inductive or an empirical aspect, which is what dominates most of economics today, where we engage in the predictions and so forth. This is where, say, for example, Milton Friedman, in his essay on positive economics, would say, you can judge an economic model by its predictive power. Okay. And so again, broadly speaking, the economics as a field embraces both dimensions or approaches to economics, but then there's an internal debate over whether or not one is more appropriate than another for the field.
Yeah. So when we talk about economics as a social science, it has these various approaches. Why should the church take seriously this sort of thing?